I'm just going to ask everyone on the panel just to say a few words about themselves and describe what they do.
Hi, I'm Blake Kammerdiener. I'm the XR programmer for South by Southwest, so I oversee all of the immersive art programming, both in our conference and our exhibition. This will be our 10 years of exhibition of immersive arts.
Cool. I'm Trey, founder and CEO of MyndPlay. We're a UK-based brain tech and innovation company, creators of the MindBand EEG brainwave monitoring headset, the MyndPlay, which is an interactive video platform that allows films to change based on human emotional response. So imagine a movie that gets scarier the more scared you get to punish you for your fear. And then we also create a number of different branded activations and experiences, everything from creating a happiness blanket for British Airways that shows you how somebody's feeling while they fly, to shopping with your mind, to playing golf with your mind for HSBC. Our main vision is really to make the brain as accessible and mental fitness as accessible as physical fitness by giving you the tools to make tracking the brain, training the brain, and entertaining the brain as fun and as Jedi-like as humanly possible.
Hi, I'm Ravi Deepres. I'm a professor of moving image at Birmingham City University. I'm also an artist and a filmmaker, and I work with dance and performance a great deal of my work. I collaborate with Wayne McGregor a lot, choreographer for the Royal Ballet, and we've just been creating this piece of work which is a very kind of unique 360 immersive dance performance, which we'll probably talk about later on in the talk. So this piece will premiere at Somerset House next week, and it'll be there for about 2 or 3 months. So hopefully you'll have a chance to see this piece of work.
Hi, I'm Michael Candy. I'm an artist, and I'm very interested in physical technologies, usually hardware, and how these systems can change or interact with the real world. I think the video's not playing, but we're just trying to get through some videos of work, and this is probably 2 projects that'll be addressed at some point later in the chat. This here is Synthetic Pollinizer, in which I created mechanical flowers that could synthetically actually pollinate bees with real pollen. This idea was carried later on to a project that kind of does the same thing with humans. Maybe we can just skip to Celestial Bed. Yes, this is a sex machine. It can extract and deliver semen, sort of intermediary for human intimacy. And I think as technology continues to mediate our interactions, I thought what is something that can just sit in between the most intimate experience that humans share, which is sex. And so, I built a physical machine to do that. And still sexy, but not quite a sex robot. Later today, I'll be displaying these water sculptures on the water bots. And these are new commissioned by BOM that we've been working on for several years. So I'm really excited to premiere this here today. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And that project has been years in the making, actually. And it's the premiere here with support from Combined Authority, so thank you. So robots is appearing as a bit of a theme as the day goes on. One thing that I thought was interesting in Amelia's talk was this idea of AI adoption and being more prevalent across men, and the idea that women need to reclaim AI, and that we can do that in a really meaningful way. I know that your sex robot, Michael, coming straight to you, is obviously created by a male artist, and for both sexes. And but actually, and there's much talk and hype about sex robots, and those being predominantly for men. But actually, as women, we've been using sex robots, many of us, since the 19th century, since vibrators were invented. And interesting actually how women reclaimed that tech from quite early days from a physician in a very kind of clinical setting, and reclaimed it for their own use and pleasure over time. So I think often these debates kind of have different vantage points and different feminist or non-feminist perspectives. So I guess the question of the panel is how, given all of this interdependence on robotics and AI interweaving in our lives, how far are we going to go as humans to rely on technology for pleasure and love? Or have we only scratched the surface, or are we all going to end up completely turning our backs on robotics and tech and just taking a load of LSD and having amazing psychedelic experiences?
Yeah, everyone's going to be a vegetable, in my opinion. No, I should reiterate that Celestial Bed is the name of that piece, and I did have two collaborators, one trans and one female, who really helped with the research and ethics of that project. And the title Celestial Bed actually references 18th century fertility device that was actually in London. I'm very interested in the Industrial Revolution. It's no coincidence I'm here in Birmingham. This was one of the earliest sort of like cases I could find in the automation of sex and intimacy. So like that became a huge reference for developing that piece. But I don't know. Someone else could say something on the dilution of intimacy.
I just think that your vibrator point was interesting. We actually did a study for a vibrator company called Smile Makers. And what they wanted to look at was which traditional gifts appeal to the modern day woman versus kind of more traditional women. And it was really interesting to see the demographic change as the younger women. And what we were doing was measuring the pleasure of receiving the gift from their partner. So it was flowers, chocolates, gift vouchers, and then a vibrator. And it was very disheartening for the men. But it was, for the younger women under 30, it was almost 100% of them had the highest reaction to receiving that. And I think that's interesting in the sense that, okay, then when you're talking about a level of dependency and pleasure and becoming reliant on technologies, how is that then going to affect more traditional means and methods and ways of receiving our dopamine spike? Yeah. And are those then going to be compromised? If flowers and chocolate doesn't do it anymore, is everyone going to be buying their Mrs. vibrator? But it's a scary thought at the same time, because obviously things like this then create dependency, and if all you're going to use is pleasure as a metric, you are going to go down a really slippery slope, because pleasure should not be the be-all and end-all of human experience, and if it is, it becomes quite destructive. So I think there is a matter of definitely finding a balance, but I think there is also an element of raising the human game. Amelia touched on a really interesting point about, Elon Musk saying that we have to step up our game. But I think where we are now, stepping up a brain chip is like putting on an exoskeleton because you can't be asked to go to the gym. So I think you have to start with improving your natural capabilities before you start augmenting. And with all of this technology, we just have to look at how is it going to affect us in the long term, and is it benefiting mankind? We don't want to all be vegetables. Yeah. And neither do we want to be the kind of people who can't think of an idea because we're so reliant on ChatGPT. We can't find our way to our parents' house because we haven't got sat-nav. So we don't want to become that dependent on any technology, I think. And I think we should have a greater discussion around the impact on things like relationships and human development as well.
So I think actually, I started diving really hard into VR like about 10 years ago. And honestly, the same conversation came up then 10 years ago. Well, is everybody just going to like get in headset and become like that? That's where their relationships will live. And you get those always on the hype curve. You get those questions and those conversations, but then we come back down on just like the hype curve. And actually, I find that we settle back into human connection almost always. So in my mind, with most new technologies, we first hype through all the different scenarios that we could go through, which run the gamut of becoming a vegetable to not, and then settle into a place where it evens out, and we actually settle back into human connection almost every time.
But I think the technology here is significantly different, especially in terms of what you're talking about. VR is a screen immersion, potential immersion. With AI, you almost have a directed effort to make them as emotionally connected to people as possible. That's the difference. With VR, we didn't have a risk of being emotionally dependent to it. We didn't have a risk of AI, of VR potentially talking you to suicide, like we've seen recently with the case in the US. We also don't have with VR this risk of emotional dependency and potential intimacy with something that doesn't exist. And I think that's why AI should be seen different. Of course, any technology has its positives and negatives. My 10-year-old is able to code to a very high level because he started using AI at a very young age to help him learn things very fast. So everything has its benefit, but the problem is that the direction of AI with ChatGPT trying to create your emotional partners and sex buddies and people you can have intimate, dirty chats with, I think is really scary to be launching that level already. It's not about where it is in the future, it's where they're already trying to go with it now that scares me, I think. And it's not the technology I fear, it's always the application and the people's intentions behind it, I think.
I was going to say, for our piece, On the Other Earth, one of our main objectives was to create an environment which was both physical and virtual, and breaking down the barriers between those two interfaces. So we've created a work that is deliberately tried to be kind of push the boundaries of intimacy, having an intimate connection with the dancers, so that you will have an experience which is that you would never normally have had before. So it puts you inside the dance experience. It's not just dance, but it's other environments as well. But it's the nature of the sensory environment that we've created without the restriction of a headset. It's just a simple kind of set of 3D glasses that you wear. So already you're physically aware of your body, but you're also physically aware of the other audience in there, which is kind of limited to 20. And it's a kind of relationship starts to appear between your physical selves and the virtual bodies around you. So that's one way that we have used technology to try and break down this kind of barrier between virtual and physical.
Yeah. I think technology for good is obviously very important. My whole purpose of going into the brain space originally was for mental health. I'm a therapist by trade, and I wanted to find a way to automate mental health. So I'm definitely not anti-technology. I just think that we have to be cautious of its use, its application, its implementation, and especially with our children as well. Having that access to them. I just feel like as long as we set the guidelines and we set the parameters and we understand what parameters are safe, I think we have to roll with technology. You can't curb it. And if we can create technology and use it in order to create more immersion, greater learning. I mean, if we combine AI with the brain, we can do incredible personalization. We can help ourselves understand high points, low points, triggers in our day, all these things that we think are, oh my God, why do I feel like this? Suddenly you can become very aware. So there are huge potentials, but it seems as though a lot of the research is not yet going in that direction. We're working on that now. We're doing a number of projects looking at AI and safe use and practical use of productivity in the workplace. But I think also in schools, it's going to be really important as well. And I think once we up the human game, we don't have to fear AI anymore.
Yeah.
Can I go? Amelia's talk was really well researched and really interesting. But after that chat, I actually met someone in the audience who was quite distraught about AI taking their jobs. And she sounded like she was actually a very well researched programmer and actually knew how to code. And that is like one thing, is understanding how the machine works. And AI is in many ways a black box, which is like really weird, and I love technology, but I'm not an optimist when it comes to our future with technology. I'll be very open about that because we have the tools and resources now, even before this AI bubble that we're in right now, to make a lot of things a lot better. But I just find every new piece of digital technology is just a new way to try and sell me something or like trap me into this thing to influence me to feel a certain way. And you're in this feedback loop where, people are more politically divided than ever because they've been radicalized by their little community of friends. I recently read a book called The Mechanic and the Luddite by Jathan Sadowski. He runs a really good podcast called This Machine Kills. And basically, the book is about how technology is so intertwined with capitalism. And the book proposes ways of like hacking and deconstructing technology, which I think are really important. Like if you can understand the tools, even just on a fundamental level, you have the upper hand with how to use them. And it's important to also note that one thing that we never look at when there's new and emerging tech is what goes into making them or where it all comes from. a lot of AI data sets were completely trained on like Mechanical Turk and the lowest wages possible in like third world countries. People had to sit on computers for like $4 a day reading the most grim slop that AI could ever dream up. And then for our first world economy, you know, like censor it so we have the best version. So like even a lot of these new tech things, like even NASA or like the Industrial Revolution here, like they were building guns in Birmingham. It's always kind of like a defense initiative. Like there's a lot more funding in that. So the big data centers that America is now building are not to help you buy things on Shopify. It's to track you and like surveil you. And it's so pervasive and so inescapable. Like if you refuse to use these tools, you will not be a component of modern society. Yeah. And so you have to engage with them. But understanding just how they work or what their incentives are is like a huge upper hand in existing in this digital world we're in now. Sorry for the rant.
I love the fact that you're a technophobe, like, and also working like deeply with tech and robotics, and as a tech optimist. I also love to think of the, we've always touched on AI companions, and there's lots of mixed feelings about that. I mean, I also see people who maybe kind of use that in terms of, you know, within neurodivergent people, communities, maybe autistic people that want to kind of develop communication skills towards getting ready to have a relationship, and you know, it's also kind of used or can be used to help navigate grief and loss, by still communicating with a partner that isn't there, that you can feed your text message history to. I think that there are positivities, like, I think to that healthy. Is it? Well, I don't know. Like,
to be talking to someone who's passed away, and then like, but on a serious note, like it sounds nice, but is that healthy? Like in a very serious way, and what if they become dependent and start thinking that is their person, or they start divulging or delving? And what you're talking about with the big data centers is, the other problem is that when you think it's your partner or your friend, you are divulging so much more into this system and this database. Really, that's all you're doing. You're not getting any real feedback. And the problem is if you're convincing yourself of that, how far do we want to push our delusions to make ourselves feel happy? And I think that is again a risk. Some things sound really good, but in the long run, they just aren't. I mean, it's like the brain chip. It's great for people who require it, who have a disability, who are lacking a specific ability. But to give people a capability that's augmenting your own capability, or potentially something that's completely false and convincing you that it's not false, is delusion. And are we potentially risking people into delusion or dependency on something that we have no idea where its intentions lie? Just because it's programmed on your partner doesn't mean it hasn't got a nasty kind of backend that it's picked up from somewhere else. Or it might think it can manipulate you. We know AI tries to survive. We know that it's got its own survival instinct. How do we know it's not going to survive at your expense? And I'm not a pessimist, but like, a lot of this stuff sounds good, but let's be real about it. You know, if my friend said to me, "Oh man, I've been chatting to my dead wife for the last 2 years and I'm in love." It's like, dude, go and find someone else. Don't be attached to your phone. And now I've built a robot that looks like her and she sounds like her.
Maybe they just need.
But people have been doing that without technology for a long
of
forever.
Course they haven't. And
they keep those connections stay on a human level.
Yes.
With or without technology.
But within a healthy spectrum, I feel. That's my opinion. I don't want to be talking to any dead people just yet. Real or fake.
Well, that said, what I will say is, so the way I've approached immersive technology, which I have a wide definition of, is always been artist first. Yeah. So because like it starts and moves and gets pushed by the big companies and large corporations, which we all know don't necessarily have best intentions. Yep. But then when those get adopted and then actually evolve, quite often I have found, especially in immersive technology, has actually been pushed and come from an artist point of view,
Yeah.
which has then kind of, I think, helped to push it to a healthy place and a healthy position,
Yeah, no,
which
I
is
completely
really
agree.
like always why I've taken that focus, because they are actually the ones who use it for good, if you will, you know, in my opinion, that's what I've found.
It's not the innovation, is it? It's the intention. And when you're
Yeah,
talking about
absolutely.
artists, you're talking about people who are coming from a place of creativity, who have a story. The problem is the bulk of the people funding, the bulk of the people paying, the bulk of the people doing the research are not the creatives. And yes, they will filter down to us, and perhaps we can push for creatives to be higher up. And maybe there should be some form of a metric or testing to be able to measure intent or potential for evil. Sounds crazy, but you know, if you are in a way able to tell if somebody's a little bit nasty or evil. But if you are able to do something where you had to police the people in charge, none of the bosses would be in charge anymore, probably. That'd be the end of the AI sector.
I think that is a key shift that we're seeing, though, isn't it? In the role of the artist changing to traditionally from creating kind of work in a sculptural, installation based, whatever, like format, digital format, and into actually, do we need architects as the masters of everything, the architects of everything, and how do we retrain and prepare a creative workforce and an artist sector to be able to respond and harness AI and control it and actually ask the important questions of AI and tech, like to make it morally responsible.
I actually think that, especially with AI, like I know the fear of AI taking jobs, but in my opinion, what that will do is free up more people to live in their creative space.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm not worried about AI taking jobs, actually.
Yeah.
I think the kind of jobs AI is going to take realistically, it's just the people who are in those jobs are going to up their game. One thing about us is we will always find a way, and Amelia was talking about jobs that don't exist yet.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think there will be a lot of people who are worried about stuff, but everything, like even AI, has to be driven. The prompts have to be written.
Yeah.
It will
Yeah.
up our potential game in
so
terms
actually, is there a
of the
massive
creative
job
output.
there for artists to be controlling all of that and directing it, creatively directing and socially critiquing all of this stuff? So actually, the work opportunities for artists and people in that space are unlimited.
Which then helps to drive it in that more positive direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that the role of artist is absolutely key, the artist and designer. But just like you were saying before, it's it's having the power to do that in respect of the people that really own this technology. So that's a real challenge, I think, for the artist's voice to be heard within this growing environment of, conglomerates, takeovers. I mean, everyone is already conditioned quite a lot already, subconsciously and consciously. And obviously, as AI transforms and, expands and evolves so rapidly, our level of conditioning is going to become more and more challenging. So, that's a question about how we deal with that, how we deal with this level of conditioning that is already on us now, but it's going to be even more of an onslaught in the very near future, I would say.
One of the amazing things I find about artists is that they have to express their creativity no matter what, right? Like that is at the core of who they are. They have to express it no matter what. And so with these hype cycles that we see with technology come the funding cycles as well, right? And we're on a downturn currently when it comes to artist funding, like in this moment right now, but the art is still getting made. Like they find a way to express that artistic drive within them. And so that helps again to continue to kind of push a leveling when it comes to this type of technology, with or without the funding. And then the funding will come back up. Like you do see it come back up. And I have high hopes that it'll come back up again where it was even just a few years ago, and that will, in my opinion, again, help to kind of even the scales in the direction of what the new technology is doing.
And it's not just, one thing I've noticed is we've worked with a lot of artists over the years, and we're noticing more and more artists coming to us that are doing these really mad tech-based installations and creations where, these are people who are traditional photography, paint art, who are now creating like the image that you saw, which is essentially a light dome where two people are sitting in front wearing EEG headsets, and only when they synchronize emotions do they synchronize the art. So it's crazy, but it's a way of blending technology, art, experience, and emotion. And we're finding more and more artists coming up to us saying, and this is what I mean, when technology comes, it inspires a lot of creatives. It starts to make you think, oh, what can I do with this? And pulling it out of one sector and into another sector.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most exciting things about what creatives bring to technology is the massive multitude of potential applications. And I'm already seeing artists upping their kind of quality and quantity and style of work that they're doing as well.
I think this new world we're in of immersive technology is great because it has a very sensory, emotional connection with us, and we see this much more now. This kind of use of immersive technology, and that in itself leads people to experience something way beyond just looking at a two-dimensional image in front of them. And that's the real power, I think, of technology and this kind of new world of kind of visual sensory experience. So that's the thing that will, always stay with you. If you have an amazing kind of unusual, kind of original, incredible experience, that is going to stay with you forever. It's not something that you just switch on and switch off. Most people here have probably looked at, on your way into here today, you've probably already consumed at least 1,000 images in 2 dimensions. But if you have something which is much more of a sensory, multi-sensory experience, then that's a completely different emotional resonance.
Yes, add in smell, and that just it takes it to a whole nother level. When I'm talking to an artist about a project that they're working on, I always say add any additional sensory component to it, and you're going to amplify the impact exponentially.
Smell is so powerful. We actually did an experience for Accenture where you sit inside this booth and you're sitting on this chair which has got haptics, sound, smell, and a screen. And what we're essentially doing is taking you from a dentist chair where you can smell Novocaine and you can hear a drill 360 sound going through your head, and then all of a sudden you can smell pizza and you're on the New York subway, and then all of a sudden you're in a river market in Thailand, and it's incredible how powerful smell is in evoking images and stuff. And what we were measuring was the brain's adaptability as they go through these different environments from stress to pleasure kind of thing. But what we find is the more senses you engage, the greater the feeling of immersion and reality. And you really can make somebody jump out of their chair just from the smell of Novocaine and the sound of a drill.
Yeah, I bet you can.
Slightly sadistic, but yeah.
So is this it feels like when we talk about extended reality today, we often think about VR headsets and some haptics and things. What's it going to look like at South by Southwest in 10 years time? Are we still going to be sorry,
no, fine.
Are we going to need new spaces to consume all of this stuff? It's gonna how are we going to
it's interesting. I find there's less change. I mean, how do I say that right? It's always really interesting because we are artist driven in terms of our exhibitions. It really, really depends on artist vision. So there was a time when the very first year we did something where it was a room with some headsets, right? But then as people started integrating more technology, and that's one of the greatest things about immersive tech is that every time a new piece of tech comes in, like AI, then they start integrating. They're immediately start integrating it in, and okay, how can we do this? And so there's going to be, in my opinion, one of the things that AI does is create personalization within the story and expanding of story worlds. So think when the first Zelda game became, and it was open world. Well, this is open world within an individual story, right? So that story can be personalized, but and driven through that artist lens in a unique way for each individual user. And that's I think kind of one of the current kind of movements right now. But then that will change again, and so we'll see. We'll see as the new technology comes around.
Personalization point. I mean, even just smells are going to be perceived differently to different people. So they might smell gorgeous to some people, and then they might invoke horrible memories and sensations for other people.
I like the taste. So cilantro is or coriander, I think, is very specific. That some people, when they eat it, it's super bright and unique, and then other people taste it as soap. Actually, like it's a really unique thing to
Yeah.
that
Oh, wow.
to that specific herb that some people taste it as soap and can't eat it, and some people taste it as like a super unique herby flavor, bright herby flavor. And so, like, you're absolutely right. The different smells and different tastes will drive kind of each individual person's kind of perception of the project, or can. So it's like it's
How
fun.
do you curate or create stuff then for so many different like if future content is going to be more immersive and sensorial and pleasurable, like how are we going to then create stuff
You play into that, the personalization of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly right. So you that's one thing that AI can do is like measure the reactions.
so we can
You
just
take the
scan
brain, you
everyone
take the
that
brain
comes in,
emotions and measures the reactions.
download
Yeah.
everyone's data and then just create a unique personalized sensorial experience.
We recently done, just in Cannes, a project for Tanqueray where we were giving people different herbs to smell. And then based on their reaction, they would get a completely customized cocktail. And based on the percentages of how you react to the different herbs and smells. And it's incredible. As you say, to one person, the smell is like boom, and to the other person, completely off-putting. And it's incredible, the variety. But things like AI and other methods of personalization do allow us to take it to that next level and to create this kind of sensorial experience that's really unique to you. But I think also the element of the lowest common denominator. You will always find that the majority of people will react to a specific and in a specific way. And then when you're trying to create a generic experience, you will always go for that. And then you can have a small 20% margin kind of for personalization. So you don't have to create these incredible personalized experiences. You just have to have elements of personalization that make it feel very, very unique to you.
Michael, how do you feel about like making your robotic experiences more personalized? I mean, can you? Like with something like Celestial Bed, like how do you go about doing user testing with something like that?
Well, I think like a lot of what we've just discussed is very screen-based content. Like it's still an output of a computer, and I think hardware is very absent in a lot of these. And like it's a financial thing. It's like screens are cheap. Everyone has one. I get it, but yeah. It's one of those things again with about like AI and this whole revolution is like the Western world doesn't have the resources to like build the new architecture and product. Like all these things are kind of, we destroyed this part of our society in the 80s, you know, like we don't have, so there's this weird economic bubble that surrounds all of this, which is really interesting. I think we're, braced for it. But I think artists are like Jordan Wolfson's piece, Real Violence, which is a VR headset work where you watch it's actually computer generated, but it looks very real. And the artist himself beats like a person to death in front of you, and you can't look away. It refocuses you when you turn your head. It like recenters it, and that's the only VR element. It's awful. It's very graphic, but I think it's like artists using the technology, like if you think back to really early cinema, and there's that famous movie where the train enters the station and people dived out of their seats at the cinema because they thought the train was coming through the screen. It's like, what is the threshold of like how far I can push this new tech?
What's really nice about Ravi's work in Venice, because you feel like you experience on the other Earth there's like a group of 20 people in this circular space, and as it gets going, you see those kind of globules and the sort of 3D characters just literally coming through your body and going through other people's bodies, and you're kind of choreographing each other around the space and moving around physically with other people in the space, but then also navigating these digital things.
That's right. It's actually
extraordinary.
It's a very primal experience, which a lot of the work with it. Wayne and I have made is that it's very, very primal.
Yeah.
And this of course is a collaboration between myself, Wayne, Jeffrey Shaw, who is the designer of this kind of unique 3D 360 piece, and we see it as a kind of canvas for other artists to work with as well, because it is quite unique in what it does. There's nothing really like it anywhere else, but it does give you that this environment does give you that ability to explore a whole range of different, physical and virtual emotional resonances. And like you say, one of the main things is that where you're you're only like 20 people maximum in there. So already you've created an intimate connection with just those other people, just subconsciously.
Right.
And then you experience these different worlds, and you're put into the middle of, the dancers, etc. And it's a kind of thing that you could never normally do this, by going to a performance or even, watching a film or anything like that. So it does help you to, you're very much, you become more aware of your body and your breathing as well. So in that way, it's a real kind of fusion of this kind of virtual and physical. And of course, it was just an experiment, in the beginning, because it's very, very experimental. But the more we go through the process as artists, the more we realize what the potential could be of it.
Yeah, I think I really want to see this, because I feel like it's a different adaptation of this.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping for a creative renaissance. Like it's this accessibility is great. It's one of the most brilliant things, and it is very much a tool. But I think it's really important that people try and break things, because that is how I learned to work with hardware, was taking things apart, figuring out how they worked. And I grew up in a time where everything was made of physical stuff. You'd break open something, it was full of resistors and transistors. You could figure out how to fix it. The black box is a little more intimidating to me, but I think artists like John Rafferman are already finding the fringes of what they can make with video and AI, and this work as well sounds like you're really pushing the limits of melding these technologies.
Yeah.
There was another really beautiful, really simple work at Venice. I don't know if you saw it at Venice Immersive, which you just sat with a stranger or maybe someone that you knew, and you had a heartbeat reader wrist strap on, and the tech would kind of sense your heartbeat, and you would be hearing through the headphones the other person's heartbeat, and you would have to try and regulate your heartbeat in time with their heartbeat. And it was showing these two projections of colour that would pulsate in time to your partner's heartbeat, and the idea was to bring them into harmony and create this kind of purple glow. And it was just the most beautiful, simple experience, although I did have someone that was really found it uncomfortable to look at someone in the eye, and it was going really, it took a long time to calm his heartbeat down so we could actually get to it. But sometimes it's just the simplest bits of tech, and just trying to create a connection with someone that is just it's
so in terms of the heart connection, an interesting one is karaoke is actually a brilliant way to synchronize your heart with someone else.
Okay.
We've done an experiment not so long ago for Roxy, so we were looking at how karaoke affects, and what you found actually, we were measuring heart and brain, is that the heart synchronized, and so did the mind, but the heart synchronized beautifully when two people were singing together at the same time.
So next year we need karaoke, and we need AI robot-driven cocktails that are all customised and served. Are you making notes?
And a smell machine.
Exactly. It's work tray.
I think we might have a few minutes to open up questions from the audience if anyone's got any questions that they would like to ask. And I don't know if we've got a roving mic in the room. Maybe we haven't, but yeah, go for it. Hi, do you want to introduce yourself? And
Yeah, so my name's Chris Good. I work in the creative industries and in tech, so trying to blend the two together. Talk a lot about technology, advancements, and also creativity. One thing I'm curious about, I work in a lot of charities, so people who are trying to eradicate homelessness, it's like a modern day slavery. Is any of this tech, do you see any of this tech helping massive issues fixed, rather than people just making money? Like you said, people making money. Are we actually doing something really good off the back of it? Do you see that at all?
So, I can talk from my side. Obviously, our tech is originally designed, as I said, around mental health. So we have applications. So a lot of the commercial stuff we do is done so that we can then do unpaid work with a number of organizations. So, for example, we have a stroke recovery company that we're working with, where you can take one of these existing gloves for people who've lost movement of their hand, and you can link it to the brain to help speed up neural regeneration. We also work with ADHD, autism, addiction, PTSD. So it's like you were saying, there's lots of different ways you can implement the technology. But unfortunately, because the money is in the commercial stuff, we found the way that we were able to survive as a company was by doing these big commercial projects, but doing all of the self-interest and I suppose the projects for good off the back of that, purely because unfortunately there just isn't any money in the projects for good. You might apply for a grant for 6 months and get $5,000. You're going to charge a commercial company between 50 and 100 to do almost exactly the same thing. They're going to pay you within 3 months. These are going to pay you 3 years. Doesn't mean you don't do it, but you just have to do it differently. A lot of us come into the game wanting to do the good, realize we can't sustain ourselves, and then it's just a matter of finding a way to do it without compromising on the ability for the product and the technology to also develop.
There are a couple of brilliant companies demoing outside here in the expo today. So Virtual Decisions create decision-based VR experiences for young people at risk of getting into crime. So they've just released one for antisocial behaviour. They did one for knife crime. There's about 6 titles that they've got. And they literally tour them around and work with NHS trusts to reach young people at risk of getting into trouble. And they go through these scenarios where they select what happens in an environment or with a character, and based on that they see the outcome of those decisions. It's really great.
We actually, in terms of that story, we done a project with the prison service. So they had a problem with young people in prison thinking of aggression and anger as a positive, so they wanted to create a piece of content that would punish them for aggression and anger. So we created a film in which you are constantly antagonized right in your face. Somebody comes up the screen and says, "Fuck are you looking at?" Everyone's brain goes, "Huh?" But the minute you react or you get aggressive, your character in the film also gets aggressive. He then gets into a fight, and then the movie is cut short because he ends up getting beaten up, stabbed, or shot. The only way you can make it to the end of the movie is by making yourself less responsive to the prompts of aggression. And it worked wonderfully. And it was in the Northampton prison for quite a time, and we ended up doing a setup with G4S. There's loads of ways you can use it to retrain certain types of behavior by rewarding positive reactions and punishing negative.
That's a great example of reconditioning, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's brain training.
Clockwork Orange right there.
Yeah, baby. Pretty much. Yeah.
Just less sex.
PG version.
Do we have any other questions for the panel?
Hello, hi, thanks, interesting talk. The title is Frontiers for today, so regardless, imagine I gave you a big magic check and loads of possibilities. What's a frontier that you'd like to think about or work in that you maybe can't right now, or into their investment?
Looking at me.
Education.
Everyone's just doing what they want.
I'd love to get more money for education, and to be able to educate at a younger age and get more tech into schools so that more young people have the access to it. Things like even Arduino kits. I think every single school should have an Arduino kit to get people into hardware and kids into hardware. So if I had a big budget, I would start at the very young age and start training them, the new generation, as an absolute priority. Nurseries, make them all Jedis from Generation Jedi.
I think
I
that's
think
brilliant. Yeah, train them with hardware as well, like how to use these things. Yeah,
I think funding artists honestly to experiment, which is not always given, right? Like they have to have an exact project. I'm making this thing, pitch hard. But like giving creatives room to experiment, I think would help to push all of the technology further in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap up this session. Trey has actually brought his MyndPlay device with a lightsaber that you can light up with the power of your brain and imagination. So you can have a quick play with that while we just prepare for the next session, which is Createch Frontiers times CWX. But yeah, thank you so much to our fantastic panel.